In Unit 2, we will discuss about thesis statements and outlining. And on our first lesson, we will discuss about what is thesis statement all about. I know that you are all familiar with the word thesis statement. And as you have taken Practical Research 1, I am pretty sure that most of the students here know how to distinguish a thesis statement in a certain paragraph, and at the same time you were able to write a thesis statement. So this is just a refresher for you so that we could start writing a thesis statement in our academic paper. For our papers to be convincing, we must first define our stand concretely. How do we write a strong thesis statement? So, for learning objectives for today's session, as a learner, you will be able to identify the characteristics of a thesis statement. And on the second one, you are going to write a strong thesis statement. So for the essential questions, what should be considered when formulating a working thesis statement? And on the second one, why must a thesis statement be open to debate? Of course, everyone, we all have our opinion, point of view, perception when it comes to discussing a topic. So we all have our thoughts in our mind. For example, um, we are all aware that next year is our national election or the election for uh, presidential position. So we all have our preference when it comes to choosing a president. Some of you may choose Bongbong Marcos, some of you may be in favor of Ping Lacson, some of you may be in favor of Isko Moreno. So the way you categorize them as you choose your president for next year is an example of a stand or your opinion on the topic. So therefore, what is a thesis statement? So a thesis statement usually can be found on the introductory paragraph of your paper or on the first paragraph. You should always state your stand on an issue or question in one sentence. This sentence is called a thesis statement. Your main idea will dictate the flow of the rest of your paper. So, to continue with the characteristics of a thesis statement, it usually shows your stand on an issue. It also answers the question or the problem being stated on the paper. It makes a claim that can be disputed. And of course, this refers to a single sentence at the start of your paper that presents your argument to the readers. So these are the keywords that signal a need for a thesis statement. So in writing a thesis statement, we usually analyze, we usually interpret, of course, we usually compare and contrast the ideas, and of course, we should also analyze the causes and effects, and of course, we should choose a stand or side on an issue. Okay, so therefore, being neutral here should be avoided because you should stand. Are you pro or anti? That's why the word debatable here is being shown on writing a thesis statement. So how to write a thesis statement? Formulating a thesis is not the first thing you do upon receiving an assignment or task. A thesis must be the result of a long process of thinking and planning. Before you can develop any kind of thesis, you must first do your research on the topic. You always look for information and evidence, then try to organize them based on the points they make. Look for possible relationships between pieces of information and analyze and find the significance or importance of these relationships of information or idea. Afterward, you will most likely be able to come up with a working thesis that has a basic main idea. It is okay if your thesis and your arguments might need adjustments along the way. Why? Because the word working thesis, of course, the idea is still continuous. Okay? As you write the entire academic paper, you usually produce ideas on how you relate your idea in giving a concept with your topic. What matters is that you can find substantial evidence to support a more concrete thesis, even if you had to adjust from time to time. So let's proceed to the example number 1. So, given the following question, should the SOGI bill be passed in the Philippines? So what is a SOGI bill? This is a law for anti-discrimination for the LGBT people. So let's rephrase this into a simple thesis statement. I believe the SOGI bill should be passed. If you want to improve this simple thesis statement, of course, simple thesis statement represents a single statement. You will improve this through with this sentence. I believe the SOGI bill should be passed because it ensures that all basic human rights are available to all people, regardless of sexual orientation or gender expression. So, my dearest students, why is it that the second sentence is more is better than the simple thesis statement? Okay? So, the word I believe, it shows that the writer here strongly agrees about the SOGI bill. And another one, it explains why SOGI bill should be passed. So, how is it explained? It ensures that all basic human rights are available to all people regardless of sexual orientation or gender expression. Okay? So, these are the tips on writing a thesis statement. Make your thesis statement as specific as possible by doing the following. Of course, you need to express just one major idea. Of course, name the topic and asserting something specific about it, and state your position or opinion about the issue. So let's proceed to example number 2. Given the assignment, analyze the state of traffic in Quezon City and propose a possible solution for it. Do initial research and observations on the road conditions. So, let's read the possible thesis statement. A possible solution to the traffic situation in Quezon City is to set up carpooling systems in the most densely populated communities and outside large company buildings. So, students, what is the solution for the traffic situation in Quezon City? So, as you can see, set up carpooling systems in the most densely populated communities is the most possible solution to avoid traffic in Quezon City. Always remember to make use of the thesis statement to take a stance on an issue that you can support with facts and reasons. So when writing a strong thesis statement, it is always a good idea to consult with your instructor or teacher regarding your thesis statements in order to get some feedback. So as your EAP teacher, I will always check your thesis statement as you write an academic paper. It is also possible to do your own evaluation so that you yourself can fine-tune the thesis statement you have written. Am I answering the question? This is one of the most important questions when writing a strong thesis statement. Because with this question, you can review the question prompt and your thesis statement. The second question is that have I taken a position that can possibly be disputed by others? Your thesis has to be persuasive and yet open to opposition. It must not simply be stating facts. The role of a thesis statement is to encourage your readers to believe with your opinion. And of course, you will also be giving them a chance to oppose your stand. Next one is my thesis statement specific enough? So you need to avoid using vague words or nonsense words such as good or successful and try to be more specific because the word good or successful has shown or has already shown the answer on the problem. There would be no thrill. Okay? Next one is, does my thesis statement pass the so what test? Because when you read or criticize the paper that you are reading, you always tend to question the paper like, so what? What comes after next? And so, what will happen? So, what's the point of this paper? Okay, so those are the possible questions when you critique a paper and at the same time in the thesis statement. If a reader looks at your thesis statement and asks, so what? Then you might need to make some clarification, provide a deeper relationship, or connect to a more relevant issue. Does the rest of my essay specifically and concretely support my thesis statement? You may sometimes have to modify your thesis statement during the process of writing in order to reflect any found knowledge. Next question is, does my thesis statement pass the how and why test? If your thesis statement is still too open-ended, add a supporting statement that will clarify your position and strengthen your stance. So it is important for us to prove that we strongly believe in our own thesis statement. A good thesis statement is supported with facts and achieved through hours of research. We don't just write a thesis statement with just one snack, but we need to engage ourselves in reading articles, books, or journals that are related to our topic so that we could produce a good thesis statement. Creating an initial statement and developing it to be more specific is an excellent way to start your research. Example number 1. Given the following question, are the use of metal straws instead of plastic straws helpful in saving the environment? If you want to write a thesis statement based on your stock knowledge and without initial research, you might be inclined to write, Using metal straws instead of plastic straws is an effective way to reduce the amount of waste in the country. Let's quote with the word effective. Okay, this is just an example of a sentence that is used only by a stock knowledge. Okay, it is a thesis, it is a thesis statement with a clear stand. However, you need to avoid vague words such as effective. Why? Because you need to be more concrete or specific in your stance. How is it effective? And then you need to research why it is effective and add it to your thesis statement. Then, during your research, you could find evidence that shows your initial working thesis should be modified. You can still change your thesis to be more concrete and also more supported by the evidence you have found. So the example sentence here is metal straws are a band-aid solution to the problem of global warming because in mass producing metal straws for people to use, large companies continue to emit dangerous amount of carbon dioxide into the environment. As you can see, metal straws are a band-aid solution. So the word effective here is no longer mentioned. And the reason why is it considered that metal straws are a band-aid solution, it is because in mass producing metal straws for people to use, large companies continue to emit dangerous amount of carbon dioxide into the environment. Okay, I hope that you still understand our topic. In your research, you have found a more significant or important issue to connect to the use of metal straws and have found convincing evidence on it. So you have shifted the direction of your thesis statement. You have also made your thesis statement more specific and you have made your stance clearer in the process. Example number 2. It is important to take note that you should avoid using jargon, or what is a jargon? A language that is too specific to the topic or discipline, as this will make it unclear for your readers. For example, quarantine and social distancing are effective in fighting COVID-19 because they flatten the curve. Are you familiar with the word flatten the curve? Because it creates unclear idea for the readers. So, how is it or how this sentence be improved? While the thesis statement makes a clear stand, its reasoning could be unclear to readers who are not familiar with the term flattening the curve, as I have said earlier. So a better thesis statement should be quarantine and social distancing are effective in fighting COVID-19 because they slow down the rate at which people get infected with the virus. Okay. Even if the word effective is mentioned here, but the reason for or the clearer idea is being stated here, it is okay. Okay. The jargon used earlier is replaced with a much clearer statement that can be backed up by data and also disputed. That is why, as I have mentioned a while ago, you do not just use your stock knowledge in writing a thesis statement, but you need to do a research in addition for your ideas when it comes to your thesis statement. Technical language and jargon can be used in the different parts of the paper, as long as they are relevant and explained to the readers. Of course, you need to avoid using them in thesis statements because they will confuse the readers as to what your main idea is. Because again and again, your target here is to encourage your readers to believe in your own stand. It can also make the thesis statement too lengthy and therefore harder to understand. So, read the thesis statement in the next slide. Based on the topic being discussed in the thesis statement, try to strengthen the thesis statement and write an introductory paragraph based on your preliminary research. So here's the topic. Plastic waste thrown in large bodies of water is bad for the environment. So you are going to make a thesis statement in addition to the introductory paragraph on the topic being shown or presented right now. The topic again is all about plastic waste thrown in large bodies of water is bad for environment. So, how are you going to improve this? Okay? I'll be giving you few minutes to answer the topic or to improve the thesis statement, and you are going to share it on the chat box. Okay. So for question, what does it mean when your thesis statement is a working thesis? Based on our discussion, what should your thesis statement respond in order for it to be more effective? Then what can you do if in the middle of your writing, in your research paper, you realize that the data you are using is beginning to contradict your initial statement? Okay, so to wrap up our lesson for today, the thesis statement is a single sentence usually found into the introductory paragraph of a paper that states the main idea and position of the writer. The thesis statement is also a product of a long thinking and researching process. Consultation and self-evaluation are important in order to develop a stronger thesis statement. For your reference, you feel free to uh, research about the following links. So if you have question, feel free to message me or leave a comment on the chat box.